and let's take a look at some more toy catalogs from the 1980s. Let's start off with ThunderCats. So ThunderCats, of course, was a major toy line in the 1980s, a great cartoon. The cartoon lasted a long, long time compared to its competitors like He-Man. Well, He-Man lasted a long time too, but Transformers and G.I. Joe. There was an extensive line by LJN. The figures looked impressive for the time, and they had a lot of cool vehicles and playsets. At number one here to the left, we've got the Cat's Lair, which is the headquarters for the Thundercats. It looks impressive. I never had this as a kid. It looks, by all accounts, to be fairly unwieldy, and you can't fit certain figures through the door and all that stuff. But I mean, it's a pretty cool item to have. Here, the Cat's Lair is shooting something. It's supposed to be a beam of light, but they enhanced it for this catalog. So there you go. It's really a flashlight. I don't think you can fit the Thunder Tank in any of these compartments in the Cat's Lair. But here's the Thunder Tank, and you couldn't fit all the Thundercats in the Thunder Tank, but it does look pretty cool. Recently, of course, Super 7 made a more to scale version, which was basically the size of a coffee table. Here you have, I think that thing at 10 is called the Sky Cutter. I could be mistaken. And at 12, 13, 14, and 15 here, you have the Pirates, or I think they're called something else. But you've got like Hammer Hand, and you've got Crusher, and you've got, I think 15 is Top Spin. And sitting with them and not numbered is Mumra on some sort of throne or something. At number 17, you've got Scythe piloting the Fist Pounder, which was a pretty cool vehicle. It was their version of the bad guy version of the Thunder Tank with these fists that just like pound as it rolls toward you. Number 18 is the Nosediver. Now, the vehicle here mentioned as mutant vehicle included with number 1. Number 1 is the Cat's Lair. So I never had the Cat's Lair. I didn't know that it came with an enemy vehicle that you can use to, like, attack the headquarters. That's a pretty neat touch. It's pretty cool. A lot of different characters here. At number 6 is the Snowman of Hook Mountain. If memory serves, I think 21 is Jackal Man. Number 20 looks like Rotaro. 19 is Chitara, which is one of the Thundercats. Here you've got Wily Cat number 23, and 24 is Mumra and Snarf. Not Mumra, sorry, Mammut and Snarf. Mammut was the dog of Mumra. And Mammut here looks like the person who was posing this for the catalog didn't know what Mammut was and thought it was just a character, a humanoid character, but it's supposed to be a dog on all fours. And here it's sort of awkwardly on its hind legs, and the head, which is supposed to face towards you when it's all on all fours, is facing upward. So next we have the this is the Bad Guy's Lair at number 25. I never see this on a back market, but it operates the same way as the old Star Trek transporter from Mego, where you put Mumra into the little upright coffin in the middle there and spin it around, and then out pops, like, the other version of Mumra. He was a mummy, and then he turned into a big, muscled-up mummy man. It's pretty cool. Pretty neat. They have some of the statues from the cartoon. And number 27 is the Sword of Omens. We'll get to Ghostbusters after I go through Thundercats here. And here are pricing, and here's more smaller price point vehicles at 28 and 29. Pretty neat stuff, pretty well designed science fiction stuff. So here's pricing for Thundercats. A lot of write-up for the Cat's Lair at number 1. It's $57.99 in 1985. So my God, that's like well over $100 today. The Fist Pounder is $30. So that would be about $85 now. The Thundercats figures are all $7 each. That's pretty good. Tigra, Panthro, Tuska Warrior, Hachiman, which was the Japanese guy, Snowman, ruler of Hook Mountain, all $7 for 1985. Pretty good. It would be under 20 today. Let's see what else. Evil Mutant Skycutter. Yes, that's what it was called. The Berserkers. That's what the pirates were called. So Crusher, Hammerhand, Ram Bam. That's a guy I couldn't remember. Top Spinner. So they're a bit more because they have a lot of mechanics to them. So they're $10 each. More deluxe figures for your kids. Rotaro, Jackal Man, and Grun the Destroyer, which is the evil Thundercat. They're all $7. Same as the other regular figures. Fist Pounder is $30. And the Thunder Tank is a little cheaper at $26.99. Pretty cool. I mean, you could feasibly get your kid both of those for Christmas, and then and maybe a few figures. Fairly well priced. Sword of Omens is $8. The Hovercat, and the Thunderclaw. That's what these two things to the left are. 30 is some sort of carrying case. Not great graphics there. Okay, let's look at the Ghostbusters. Now, this is not to be confused, of course, with the real Ghostbusters, which was based on the movie that everyone knows. Ghostbusters, of course, was a 1970s live-action series made by Filmation, and then they made a cartoon to compete against the movie-based real Ghostbusters. And the cartoon was a sequel to the live-action show. So the characters in the cartoon were kids of the characters from the live action, which is pretty cool. By all accounts, this toy line is probably superior to real Ghostbusters. Not in nostalgia, of course, but in play pattern and in play action, this headquarters fit everything that, you know, like the vehicles and the characters and everything. And it was a lot more extensive, and, you know, there were a lot of cool things inside the play set that you could do, as opposed to the emptiness of the fire hall from real Ghostbusters. The figures themselves are neat and very well detailed, colorful stuff. You got a Wolfman here. The guy in the red with the skull face is the main bad guy. You've got some of the characters, the good guy characters. There was an ape in the original live action. There was a guy in a suit. And then so in the cartoon, it's the son of that ape. And at 35, you've got their car. It's not as cool as the Ecto one, but it's a car that can extend its wheels and stuff and fly and all that stuff. When you're scared silly, call Ghostbusters. Yeah, it's not as catchy as Who You Gonna Call. Ghost Command was that big mansion that everyone lives in. It's $54.99, so like what, $120 today. This is 1985 money back then. Yeah, so Eddie Spencer may not be the smartest Ghostbuster, but he sure has enthusiasm. Fangster is a futuristic werewolf villain. Jake Kong is the leader of the Ghostbusters. Tracy the gorilla helps the Ghostbusters. Yeah, so those are the characters. They're all $12 figures, fairly expensive compared to like Thundercats, which was a more popular line with cheaper figures. The Ghost Buggy is $30. It's about, what, $85 today. Alright, let's talk about Capsela. Now you might be wondering what the hell this is. So this is yet another builder set from back in the day. Builder sets were popular. Kicked off by Lego, and everyone else had their own versions. I had a Capsela set, so I'm very familiar with this. These round things are modules that you connect together to make bigger things, and usually there was a module that had a motor in it that could then connect to wheels and things, and you can make things go and run, and you can build onto those with more modules, etc. Um, the Capsela builder sets, like most things in the 80s, came with little figures. Almost everything came with action figures. Even if they weren't even canon to a larger story or something, it just came with figures. And the figures were very, very tiny. They were blue spacemen with domes, with like transparent domes. And you can fit them into the thing that you created as the pilot. Um, Now, you see in the middle there, there's some, this is in 1985. You see in the middle there, there's something that looks like a tablet today. Keep that in mind when we look at the description of all this stuff. So these are Tomy builder sets. Um, Not called anything, but you can create different robots or vehicles. Number 6 looks very well endowed there. Um, and you can operate them and stuff, usually with a wire apparatus, as number 8 shows. And I'll briefly mention the Popoids, which is yet another super obscure toy line. Everyone made toy lines with characters and stuff back then, and there's a lot that, didn't get a push, didn't get a cartoon or anything. This looks like a bunch of weird accordion plastic pieces. And you create people with that, or pets or whatever. Pretty neat. If I were a kid, I'd adore this. It's pretty fun looking, colorful. So here in the description, you've got the Capsela description 1 through 4. Imagine building futuristic land, water, and air vehicles that really work. So 1 and 2 build computerized models with Capsela computer program control. Computer can be programmed for many functions, including sound, light, dual motor action, pivots, turns, and more. Stores up to 97 commands. So that's number 1 and 2. So you see there's a little control unit in the middle of the thing on the left there. So 372 pieces, Capsela 500 makes gear-driven vehicles whose speed can be controlled. 4, Power Tram 375 makes gear-driven space vehicles steer forward, reverse, perform arcs, etc. So yeah, so you can program that into that thing in the middle. That's not a light up screen. I think that's really just like a plastic red and white like interface with like white buttons, and you control in things. It was teaching kids to program way back then without really saying that. I had something similar, which was my Capsela didn't do this, but I had a toy computer that you could wire and make it, calculate things and stuff like that. Weird stuff. STEM stuff. It wasn't called STEM back then. Alright, let's talk about superheroes. Of course, what you see here is Superpowers. Superpowers was the DC comic book action figure line from Kenner. And, this was a classic line with a lot of classic designs. Superpowers was cool because it was just based on the DC universe. There was a play pattern, they had to fight Darkseid and everything, but because it was using the DC universe, you could make DC universe things. So here's the Hall of Justice from the Super Friends cartoon. You don't see it folded up with the classic design, but it folded out to have a whole bunch of things inside. The Supermobile wasn't quite what it was in the comics. It didn't have the fists, but it kind of looked like a Supermobile. The Batmobile, of course, is classic. All the characters are not redefined or reimagined. They're all the classic designs. Lexor at number 5 is the vehicle that Lex Luthor pilots, which is basically a variation of the Supermobile. And you have more classic characters. Now, Brainiac was redesigned for the mid 80s, but it comes from the comics, and so does that Lex Luthor power suit. At number 11 and 12 are generic vehicles that are made to interact with other companies' toy lines. So it's like, here's a car that Superman can drive, even though he can fly. And, it's like number 12 has a vehicle that you can fit um, Dr. Octopus in and have his arms come out the side, and it has a picture of Dr. Octopus, but it's not an official um, like Secret Wars vehicle. It's made by some generic brand. It's the same thing with the Spider-Man motorcycle there. Back then, people did that all the time, made stuff to cash in on popular toy lines. So to the right, you've got the competing Marvel Secret Wars. Now, I love Secret Wars, but Secret Wars was faulty in that they created a storyline where the characters fought in another planet, and as a result, the Marvel action figure line that went with it wasn't really a Marvel action figure line because you didn't get all the classic locations and vehicles that you would want. Like, you would want Captain America to have his classic motorcycle or something, or maybe you have a Daily Bugle playset, or maybe Doctor Doom's castle. Instead, this was the closest thing we got was Tower of Doom, which was a Doctor Doom sort of castle kind of set. Um, and it was the closest thing. Everything else was sort of just a weird science fiction thing that the characters just, frolicked on. This blue thing is what passes for a Captain America cycle. And there's, of course, a bad guy variation. Kang got his big break here. Most people, when they think of Kang, they think of the Secret Wars Kang. Everyone got a lenticular shield, including Captain America, who didn't get his regular shield. Very, very faulty stuff. But we all adored it. The figures themselves look cool. Iron Man is, of course, famously the roadie Iron Man, but they only say that on the back of the card. To the left are all the pricings. So the Hall of Justice for like 1984, 1985, $25, that would be about 70 or $75 today. The Supermobile is $10, price of most figures back then. Batmobile is a lot more expensive. It has a lot more play features to it. And the Superpowers characters for 1984 are $8 each. Pretty good. I had two for Christmas. I had Superman and Hawkman. Hawkman was cool because you could make his wings flap, which is very on point for the character. The action figure vehicles, which are the cheap knockoff ones, are $4. That's pretty good. And the ones that, so that's the one that Superman was piloting. The ones that Dr. Octopus and Spider-Man were in are $8. I think you get both of them though, so that's cool. Captain America, Doctor Doom, etc. It's $8. And the Tower of Doom is $23.99. A little less than the Hall of Justice, but every kid would want the Hall of Justice. The Doom Cycle and Turbo Cycle are fairly cheap at $7 for 1984 or 1985, around there. And the superheroes are about $8 at the same price as the superpowers. So parents trying to buy their kids these things would be like, Superpowers and Secret Wars, what's the difference, right? But like, one's DC and one's Marvel, of course. And let's talk robotics. Who puts the future in your hands? Robotics. So this is another builder set where you create these robots and you control them with these elaborate controls that hook up to the the robots. Now, there was a cartoon tie-in that had almost nothing to do with this, and you can see in the cockpit of number 17, this thing came with action figures because everything came with action figures. The action figures had nothing to do with the cartoon, but if you wanted to make believe something was piloting your creation, you had an action figure to do that. Pretty cool stuff. To the left is unpictured like GoBots and Transformers pricing. You can take a look at that. Of course, the GoBots were a lot cheaper. That's pretty cool. Down here are other characters. So let's look at number 15 before we look at A-Team. This is the Rogun. This thing looks crappy. I mean, it's got a cool color scheme, but when it turns into the gun, it doesn't look like a well put together gun. It's the legs are still apart, so it has two handles. The arms are apart, so it has like two barrels. It just looks like a really basic transformation. Um, Whatever. It looks cool as the robot, I guess. Now on the right, of course, is A-Team. A-Team was huge. It debuted, I think, in '83 and ran for 5 years. Every kid loved it. It was great. Made a huge star out of Mr. T after his turn in Rocky 3. Here at number 18, you've got a kid posing with the talking B.A. Baracus, or talking Mr. T, really. It's a Mr. T doll. And here it says the talking Mr. T doll is $13. Pretty good compared to the pricing of some of the action figures and stuff of the time. This thing is bigger and it talks. There's a non-talking version of this doll, and that's $10 for back then. So that would be about $25 today. And the talking Mr. T would be about maybe $30. The A-Team van, so there were two scales to the A-Team. There was the bigger, I think, 5-inch figures, and there were these 3 3/4-inch G.I. Joe O-ring figures. And here you have the A-Team van, and at number 20 is, I think, Face's Corvette, and at number 21 is a playset, which is basically a mat, and a bunch of stuff you put on the mat, kind of like Fisher-Price Adventure People or something. And they're fairly cheap. So it's like $10 for the van. I don't think it comes with everybody. Except it comes with Mr. T. That's cool. He's not called Mr. T in the show. It's called B.A. Baracus, but like people couldn't distinguish between the two. It's the same guy. A-Team Corvette. It includes the face figure. That's pretty cool. That's $10. And this play mat and everything, it includes Hannibal, Face, Murdoch, and BA with weapons and accessories. And somehow this whole thing is $10. That's huge value. Wait, the A-Team headquarters camp set, deluxe set, includes Hannibal, Face, Murdoch, and BA with weapons and accessories, including the tent, assault boat, machine guns, plastic 17-inch long, that's the mat, for $10? Just get that. Like, the van only comes with Mr. T, and that's $10. And the court, wow. I know these were cheaper figures. The bigger ones were more expensive and deluxe. I like that it says 1983 Stephen J. Cannell Productions, all rights reserved. Stephen J. Cannell must have cleaned up on A-Team. He must have been richer than God. Like, after A-Team, it's like, if he was getting a cut of the merchandise too, my God. Anyway, that's all for today for going through catalogs. I'll go through more of these catalogs, soon. So until next time, take care.